And joining us now on Encounter is children's book author, illustrator, bookstore owner, founder of Fable Vision, Peter H. Reynolds. And thanks so much, Peter, for being with us
Great
today.
to be here.
So many avenues to go, but let's maybe if we could start off with your writing and your illustration, and maybe go back a little bit. And when did you first know that you had this talent, and you know when to pursue it?
Right. Well, I suppose I knew it when I was a child. I mean, I think all children feel artistic, and I just kept going.
Yeah.
And it was probably in first grade when my twin brother Paul and I started, we created our very first newspaper. So we wrote and illustrated it, and my dad photocopied it at the office, and we brought it into school, we passed it out, and I think that planted the seed for publishing, and we loved it. You know, you can take one idea and you can broadcast it out. And and then I just kept going, and probably, you know, I would probably say about 7th grade, I kind of noticed that I kind of looked around, nobody else was drawing, and I was still drawing, and I loved it, and I just kept going. So, and here we are.
And here we are.
Yeah.
We have some of your books out here on the set as well, but I know some of the more famous ones, The Dot and Ish, and you know, great stories. The main character is coming up against some discouragement, and but there's someone there to sort of point them in the right direction, give them some insight. And right. I wanted you to talk to us a little bit about that and how important it is to have somebody, maybe to point somebody in the right direction.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely a familiar theme in my books. Is it's usually about the journey, and there's someone who's encountered something, a problem, a challenge. And I always describe a really good story, or my stories especially, it's like a piece of string. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end. And somewhere along that piece of string is a knot. And we have to untie that knot. And in the dot, there's a little girl who says she can't draw. And there's a teacher who thinks differently, and in a very clever way, dares her to make her mark. And so Vashti takes a marker and she jabs the paper. She leaves one little dot behind. And the teacher takes a look at it and hands it back and says, "Please sign it." And of course, she thinks, well, I can't draw, but I can sign my name. She signs her name, and the next week when she walks into art class, there, hanging above her teacher's desk, is her dot, all framed in swirly gold. And she looks at it and she's like, well, maybe I could do a better dot than that. And of course, that encourages her to keep going. But I had a lot of great mentors along the way, and I had one in particular, Mr. Matheson, who was my math teacher, who I dedicated the book to. And he noticed that I loved to draw, and he actually asked me to teach math using my art and my storytelling. And I made that turned into a comic book, which then turned into a storyboard, which then turned into an animated film. So age 12, I made my very first animated film to teach math.
That's wonderful.
And that was one of the many great inspiration points along the way.
Yeah, and then you have this passion to sort of encourage kids to be more imaginative, to be more creative, and you know, there's, I'm sure, children's authors out there who might do books, but you have this passion. You take it to another level, and I was wondering how that developed, and what pushes you on that journey.
Yeah, it's definitely a mission. You know, I pick very carefully who I work with, the kinds of people and the kinds of stories they're telling. And of course, I can collaborate with myself because I can draw and illustrate, but I'm collaborating with my twin brother, Paul, and we're working on our 3rd book together. But I really do feel that it's a great responsibility for me, that I am in touch with kids and families and schools, and I can actually deliver some encouragement to them to say, you know, keep going, and really be true to yourself, and also be able to think and hear yourself, because we're living in an age that has become very consumer-centric, and it's very much, there's a lot of incoming, you know, and the kids got their earbuds in, and the parents are attached to their cell phones, and there's a lot of data coming in, and there's not a lot coming out, and we don't give ourselves a lot of time to even hear ourselves think. So that's part of my mission, is to remind people to slow it down and to begin to hear yourself think, and also what choices can you make to make not only your life better, but also the world a better place. And I'm kind of romantic, nostalgic that, you know, we there's definitely still more light in this world than darkness, and that we all can contribute to that light.
Well, we have so much more to get to. We're going to be talking about your company as well, Fable Vision. We have a lot to get to. We're going to talk to you a little bit later on. We're going to take a quick break right now, but when we come back, we'll have more with Peter H. Reynolds. And we are back here on Encounter talking with children's book author, illustrator Peter H. Reynolds. Thank you so much for being with us on the show today. We talked a little bit about some of your books, some of your passion as well, and some of that passion in writing and illustrating sort of pursued you as well into this other venue, Fable Vision. Maybe if you could talk about that, how that started.
Yeah. Well, I started Fable Vision 18 years ago with my twin brother, Paul, and we're located in Boston, and we're a children's media company. Our tagline is called Stories That Matter, Stories That Move. So we're busy. We've got 40 writers, artists, illustrators, programmers, and we're creating positive media and working with some of the best people on the planet, doing good stuff for kids and families. And it's all about positive storytelling. We feel there's way too much violence and dark out there, and we're trying to provide some balance in creative ways.
And that's sort of spinned off into Fable Vision Learning as well, and that's more for educators?
Right, yeah. We're trying to encourage kids like me. When I was in school, I was a creative kid, and I had a lot of creative energy, and it was a rare teacher that really tapped into that creativity, and I thought, wow, if we could give kids the tools to be creative and to make things and to write and express themselves, we're going to be able to serve all children. There are a lot of kids that never make it through to get their diploma. I mean, the numbers are so high, and the only way we're going to solve that problem is to be creative and think outside of the box. And so our company is just really dedicated to that, and there are all sorts of cool new tools out there, and we're trying to connect the dots for kids who are creative, who are artistic, and sort of connect the dots between science, math, engineering, the arts. It's really exciting.
Yeah. And you touched a little bit on this last time too, but just the amount of technology too, and how to sort of sift through that and get kids back into reading, back into getting away from all the noise, I guess.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of noise, and it's funny because those machines that they're kind of addicted to can also be used for good. There's computers are wonderful, but a lot of people are turning them into television sets, and which is not bad, as we know. Right? There's good TV and there's bad TV, and getting good TV is terrific. But how about kids making their own TV, right? Kids writing their own shows, creating their own books, their own stories. And we have to get back to that. That's something that we really have to be careful with as we kind of traverse into the next century, where it's going to be very technology driven. We can't forget that the best technology is actually the human connection. So things like making conversation, making art, making dinner together. That's the human connection, and we can't lose that. So we actually use story media technology to promote that. So it's kind of it's funny that we're using technology, but we're trying to remind kids, and grown-up kids too, that technology can be used to create things, to make things, to share, and also connect people on the planet. That's the other really exciting thing, is that the planet's getting smaller because we're getting to know each other, and it's a lot harder to hurt somebody that you know, and so I'm very optimistic that there are good things ahead.
Yeah, and as you were talking to, and as reading the books as well, inspiration for kids and creativity but it's also something that adults can learn as well, and sometimes children can be great teachers.
Yeah, and I'm glad you pointed that out, because a lot of times people will refer to my books as children's books, and I always say, yes, children do read them, but they're picture books. I happen to use pictures and just a few words, just the right amount that I need. But I'm really speaking to all ages. So my picture books are for grown-ups. I always say that there are two kinds of big people. There are adults and grown-up kids. The adults are the ones that got really serious, and grown-up kids are the ones that still know how to play and sing, and they're really they're really good to be around kids, and it's so I encourage your audience to be grown-up kids and still play and not just hand kids toys, but play with your kids. And just don't hand them the watercolors and the paper. Sit down with them and watercolor. And this is something I love to remind people. If you're a grown-up, don't say bad things about your own artwork. Don't denigrate your art, because I see a lot of teachers and parents they start drawing and they say, oh, I can't draw a straight line with a ruler. Well, you've just taught your child what fear looks like, and they're eventually around 3rd, 4th grade, they may put their pencil down, and that's my mission, is to make sure that those kids do not put that pencil down and think for themselves and be creative, make stuff, and it's a lot easier if they know what it looks like. So we adults, us big people, right? We have to show kids what does it look like to be creative and optimistic and positive.
That's great. And we want to, we're running out of time, but I want to mention too that the Blue Bunny Bookshop toy as well there too is a great place that your family runs that. And you try to create a great environment there as well.
And this is actually, I want to just show you my favorite book, and it's our most popular book in the shop. It actually is a blank book, and kids sort of wonder, like, how could that be your favorite book? And that actually is a great conversation, because suddenly they realize, like, oh, I could put my stories, my ideas, really it could be anything. And so I remind kids that the best is yet to come, and that they're going to be the authors, the creators of that.
That's great.
So
if people want to find out more, Paul, about your great work, where would they go?
Well, there's my site, peterhreynolds.com, and there's the .club.org, and it's easy to Google me and find me. I'm in a lot of places, and I'm looking forward to connecting the dots with your audience.
Excellent. Yeah. And all these books up here make great Christmas gifts as well. You got a great Christmas book as well, The Smallest Gift at Christmas too.
And this is a new one called
great.
Star Bright, and it's called Star Bright, A Christmas Story, written by Allison McGee, and I illustrated it. And it's a lovely, kind of a new take on the Christmas story and the Nativity. And I got to imagine what an angel looks like in my mind, and I wanted it to be whimsical and fun for kids. But like I said, it's a book for all ages.
That's great. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.